representing SPK, and it is my pleasure to introduce one of the most inspiring figures in the Indian education. Joining us today is Padma Shri Professor Dinesh Singh. Professor Singh is the current Chancellor at KR Mangalam University and has served the position of Vice Chancellor at Delhi University in the past. He's also a distinguished fellow of Hackspace and Imperial College London and has been an adjunct professor of mathematics at the University of Houston. Now, if I could go on, now I can actually go on and on about Professor Singh and his achievements here, but I think we'll probably surpass the duration of this interview here. So I think I'll hand it over to Professor Singh. Now, Professor Singh, a very warm welcome to you. These are certainly very difficult times, and more so for the students. Education sector, as you know, has shaken up. There have been some measures that have been adopted by educational institutions as well as governments, but still there is a lot of confusion that persists. So in light of the same, we would love to hear your thoughts about what's going on and what can we expect in the new era of education. Over to you, Professor Singh. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. And I'm delighted to be here on your platform. I am a big fan of what Speakin does. It's always fun to be associated with your activities. So thank you once again. And when you asked those questions, you had a barrage of things within that short, introduction of yours. I realized that it's more than what we can handle. One, because I'm not fully capable for these things. Two, education is so deep and so vast that it's going to sort of take a huge amount of time to get around it. But to keep things short and to the point, let me just tell you that, education by itself is a standalone concept independent of the times that we live in. It transcends barriers of time. It also transcends the tyranny of geography. So it's a standalone independent thing. And if we can grasp what it is that makes it so, that it's independent of time and geography and such barriers, it'll help us in the rest of the session. So, it's best to quickly grasp what I mean by education. And then I have a simple working definition of education, which has stood me in good stead in my life. And it's not really something that I've come up with. I'm sure hundreds of great ones, not ordinary people like me, but really great ones, have also understood and said it in their own way, but said the same thing. So, my definition of education is very straightforward and simple. It's a very personal thing. It's a personal journey. It's a journey of the self, and it's a journey within. You have to delve within and discover who you are, and that's when you begin to get educated. So if someone says, I want to educate the country, what they really should be meaning is that I wish to provide an opportunity for people individually in a whole population. I wish to create a platform that allows each individual to delve within himself or herself and discover themselves. And what does that really mean? Discovering yourself. So I believe that each one of us has a drumbeat within. I call it the Antardhwani, the drumbeat of the soul. All of us have it. The challenge in our lives is to discover this drumbeat. And if you discover it, doesn't mean you're educated. It's the first step. To begin to get educated, you have to start marching in the real world in harmony with this drumbeat. And the more you do that, the more you will discover yourself. And the more you discover yourself, the more you get educated. That's what education is all about. And now let's look at this very carefully. Is it connected to any institution or a degree or an exam or a qualification or any period of time in history? Or does it talk of any geographical region? Nothing. That's what I meant. And I'll give you just 2 or 3 very quick examples because I'm a mathematician. And when we define a mathematical principle, you never really fully understand it till you look at examples. So here are 3 quick examples. Srinivas Ramanujan discovered his drumbeat, the Antardhwani, which was forever resounding with the sound or the beat of pursue mathematics. And then his whole life, he didn't have any university university qualification in India, he kept failing. He kept failing the intermediate or +2. So finally, Cambridge gave him directly a PhD, not an honorary doctorate, a straight PhD, but that came later. Otherwise, he had never really studied for a degree successfully. Yet, he was one of the greatest mathematicians the world will know. Why was that? He discovered his drumbeat and then he began to march in the world by pursuing mathematics to the exclusion of everything else. Single-minded devotion. Sachin Tendulkar, he has barely passed school. He has no qualifications beyond that. He discovered his drumbeat cricket at a very young age. And he began to pursue cricket to the exclusion of everything else. When he set out, both Ramanujan, when they set out, Ramanujan and Tendulkar, they didn't know that he's going to be Ramanujan and he's going to be Tendulkar, Bharat Ratna, greatest mathematician, nothing like that. They were just pursuing their drum beats. Similarly with Gandhiji, at a very young age, he decided, I will adhere to the truth, no matter what the price. Very young, he was in the 6th grade. And his whole life is nothing but adherence to the truth. That is how he kept this. He has no university degree. People have this mistaken belief that he had a law degree. No, he qualified to practice law. He didn't have a degree. So all three had no degrees and yet they were great people. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's what education. And if you want, I can elaborate more on this.
Fantastic, Dr. Singh. I mean, this is actually very interesting, and the concept of drumbeat is something that that probably many accomplished individuals, as you rightly mentioned, can resonate with. What are your thoughts? I mean, coming to what's happening in the present times, what are your thoughts about what students are going through in the current situation? What is it that they probably look up to in the future in terms of education? There are a lot of students who are in the transition phases of their career, planning MBAs, even going abroad, or planning careers, or planning to enter the new phase of their professional career. So what is it that you would like to advise to them?
एक हिंदी का शब्द है, it's from Hindi, but it's derived from Sanskrit, धीरज. My personal advice is they must, display a fair amount of धीरज, dhairya. They should acquire the persona of a dheer buddhi. In other words, stay calm, stay focused, and things will change. All things pass. And a few months here or there in your lifetime is not going to change you. What will change you is what you allow to change you. Nothing else will change you. So don't allow these times to change you. Universities are shut, both here and abroad. Every university that I know of is taking recourse to online education. So when they're taking recourse to online education, people have this feeling it's not going to be good, it's not going to be the same thing, and what. No one that I have met or admired in my life, has ever really attributed much of whatever he or she has acquired to a proper sit-down classroom experience. Most of the time, it is personal effort. And the effort is not easy, it takes time, and it doesn't come because you have a university degree. It comes because you are striving to discover yourself all the time. That's the thing. So I would urge all students not to allow this to, destabilize themselves. Sthit pragya, and let this time pass. You get admission anywhere, take it. I know people, Michael Faraday had no education, became the greatest scientist of his life, of his time, and one of the greatest of all times. He dropped out of school in 2nd grade. And the examples I gave you, Gandhi, Ramanujan, Tendulkar, they're all successful people. They had no education. And here are students at this age. They have admissions, it may get delayed, and they are worried. I would urge them not to be worried. These things will pass. Use these opportunities to enrich yourself, to enable yourself more. And that will happen when you take these opportunities to figure out who you truly are. And then you'll get better and better. And then your education will come to some value.
Fantastic thoughts, Dr. Singh. Fantastic thoughts. And a small extension of the same question, if I may. as you know that universities and governments, both of them are resorting to some measures, be it organizing the classes online. The government is trying, and in terms of school children, they are trying to reduce the syllabus. They are postponing the exams. A lot of entrance exams have already been postponed. You've been in the educational sector. Do you think that these measures are on the right path? I mean, would you like to comment on that? And is there anything else that probably we can do, be it the government or be it the academic institutions? Is there anything else that they can do to further help students?
There is a saying attributed to the wise men of Galilee that out of evil cometh good. So the coronavirus is an evil thing. It's evil, but it has led to some good things. For instance, this business of understanding the value of online and technology-based education. I think it is a great opportunity, and honestly, if you are looking for a guru, it's there sitting on the web. It's right there inside the web for you. People should use this opportunity. I have been running a program, and I will be running an online course now called Harnessing the Power of the Web as a Guru or a knowledge device. And what I'm trying to demonstrate is that you really don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to take any formal education. If you have that curiosity and drive within you, best captured again in this Sanskrit word, jigyasa. If you have that in you, you will get educated. Use that power. But people don't. Now at least they have begun to see that the web is a huge resource. So one, that's a great thing. The other good that has come out, I have always felt that in India particularly, we teach too much. Let this be a learning exercise for all of us. हद से ज़्यादा पढ़ाते हैं पहली कक्षा से, किंडरगार्टन से शुरू कर देते हैं, मन में लाद देते हैं बच्चे के बोझा, उसका मन दब जाता है, अविकसित हो जाता है. They shouldn't be doing that. Here is a good chance for us to curtail all that stuff that we teach. I don't remember much of what I learned in my school, just a few things. And those also hardly ever came to me from a regular syllabus or a classroom environment. You know what Mark Twain said? That he did not allow his schooling to interfere with his education. I think there's a huge lesson here. Darwin also said the same thing. He said, I learned more in the pubs of Cambridge than I did in the lecture halls. And Newton, he made all his discoveries when Cambridge shut down for the plague and he went home. So his discoveries were made at home, not at Cambridge. The point I'm trying to make is, let's not, create this big brouhaha about syllabus kam ho gaya, hamara kya hoga. It's all meaningless. You stay steady, you stay focused, and enrich yourself according to your own desires and likes, and you will take advantage of the situation. Governments are, I think, trying to cope as best as they can. I think it's a welcome step that governments have also advised universities to take recourse to online learning. It will help India get onto this technology-based platform, and without that, you really can't, get India going in the realm of education. So this is a good opportunity. Two, many governments have, I think, postponed exams, which is very good. Some of them have taken my advice, and I told them, promote people just as it is. If they're not happy, a few months later, give them a chance to take an exam to improve their scores. But on an average score of what they have done in the past, promote them. So I think all these things together will take care of the situation. We shouldn't worry. We shouldn't allow it to destabilize ourselves.
Okay, fantastic thoughts, Dr. Singh. I actually had a very interesting question. There are a lot of surveys. I mean, since this lockdown period has happened, there are a lot of surveys which are somehow pointing that school children in particular, are now more inclined towards getting into either technology domain or medicine, because this coronavirus has more or less established that these are the things which will survive any pandemic. Technology is something which is now irrespective of what else is happening, it's being used for connectivity, it's being used for staying in touch with each other, and obviously the medicine is something which is being looked upon for developing cure, and doctors are working day and night during these hours. A question that has come out is, in a country like India also, where everyone wants to be, where everyone says कि हमारा बच्चा या तो engineer बनेगा या तो doctor बनेगा, in a country like India, do you think this is actually going to impact the syllabuses, the curriculum of backgrounds like humanities or commerce?
You know, I honestly don't believe this. These things come and go. Mores come and go in life, and people will take to this for a while. Eventually, market forces make a difference. And once again, I'm not advocating that you should go with what the market tells you. You should go with what your heart tells you. In other words, discover your drumbeat and follow that. And success comes to you in every sense of the term. It's like a yogi evolving. When you stay true to your drumbeat, अगर आप खरे उतरते हैं इस अंतर्ध्वनि के संबंध में, तो आपका एक तरह से विकास होता है. You're evolving. And when a yogi evolves, certain siddhis, they descend upon the yogi. And did Tendulkar plan that he's going to make a lot of money when he plays cricket? Did he plan that he will get the Bharat Ratna? No, he just decided he wants to pursue his heart's desire, his drumbeat, and play cricket. The other rewards come, and Tendulkar hasn't changed because the rewards have come to him. He's still a modest, humble man. He's still very steadfast, very focused, and he is educated in every sense of the term. So we shouldn't really worry too much about this. Yes, there will be emphasis and fashion for a while. People will want to do that. But after a while, it will change again, and people must be encouraged to do what their heart believes in, not what the world thinks. You should not march to somebody else's drumbeat.
Okay, so that's a very important lesson there for the students, I believe. Coming to my next question, and probably the most important question of this discussion, what's the future of education? I mean, obviously, every single sector in this world has been shaken up because of this coronavirus thing. Every single industry is making drastic changes within how they function. Within organizations, there have been significant changes within the operations. In terms of education sector, do you think that probably this is the time which has taught us some very important lessons about how we study, how we conduct our classes? And do you think that this we'll have some takeaways from this that probably are going to stay with us forever for the rest of the time that's there? What's
Well,
going to
certainly, I agree with you. So I think education has taken a turn for, in some ways, the better. As I said just a while back, that the technology that we have begun to use is opening. Technology by itself doesn't educate you. It's just an enabler. It's like a path. एक रास्ता है, मार्ग है. आपको उस मार्ग पे चलना है. You have to walk that path. So first, as I said, you have to look for it. Various stimulation, various things that stimulate you and make your drumbeat speak out, so that then you know what it is. Like Gandhi's, stimulation for him was this external stimulus came to him from the play Satyavadi Raja Harishchandra. Tendulkar, when he saw some people batting, that's when he decided he wants to do that. Ramanujan's stimulation came when someone gave him a book on mathematics written by a foreigner, and that suddenly, woke up the drumbeat within. He began to hear it. So you need some external stimuli, and if you need that, then wherever you get it, you will. If you understand this, then you will look for places where you can get this stimulus, and that sort of begins to make your inner drumbeat heard to your own, inner self. Now, people are asking this question. I've been flooded with inquiries from parents, that should I send my child to this institution which is teaching online, or should I wait for 1 year when they go to the so-and-so university, most of the time abroad, where they will start, regular face-to-face classes? And my simple answer to them is, it's not a question of face-to-face or, technology-based. It's a question of which one is giving your child an opportunity to discover himself or herself. And if your child is really serious, they don't even need to go to a university. Believe me, the web is a university. It's a universe of knowledge. And if you think that, because the web also contains all kinds of bad things, there are bad things in the world everywhere. You think a child, when he goes to a university to study and lives in a hall of residence, there aren't bad things happening there, drugs and this and that? Of course. It's a question of use your discerning mind, use your vivek, as they say, to decide what's good for you and what is not. When the ocean was churned, the Sagar Manthan happened. Many good things came out, but not everything that came out was good. There was poison also. So you have to leave the poison aside and just take the good things. So the web is a huge source, churn it. And if a university gives you an opportunity now, don't waste your time. Take advantage, use the web and educate yourself. Stir yourself from inside. Take advantage of that. And it's not so important. I looked at, a list of Nobel laureates about 7-8 years ago. I looked at a list of Nobel laureates in the sciences. And I wanted to see where have they really studied before they get the Nobel Prize. And I realized a huge number of them have studied at universities that are never regarded as great. They've been at reasonable places. Once they get the Nobel Prize, then the big ones attract them. Otherwise, no. So my point is this. If you really want to become something, be yourself and don't worry about whether the university will be something for you. It's never going to be. What you do will matter. So don't worry where you go. Get the right opportunity, which allows you to look within and discover your drumbeat, and then it allows you to march in harmony with the drumbeat. If you get that online, take it.
Right. Very rightly said. I mean, this has been a very burning question for many parents, as you rightly mentioned, about whether they should send their child to the universities or whether they should skip 1 year. So that's a very helpful point there indeed. Professor Singh, coming to my next question, and it's more related to it's more related to the experience than to the education sector itself. A lot of people are saying that, I mean, certainly right now we've been forced to do everything online, including education, but a lot of people are of the viewpoint that online learning can actually never replace in-person learning. How true is that fact? And maybe is there a silver lining to it as well?
Let me tell you something. About 6 years ago, they conducted a survey with teachers of the United States, large body. What do you think of technology-based learning? And about 90% of them said it's poor quality, it's never going to work, it's never going to replace a teacher. Then the same cohort was asked in confidence, give us the true reason. And more than 80% said we are afraid we lose our jobs. You get the point? It's just this, that it's a nice way of blaming this. One, because those who are in jobs feel that they will lose their jobs, they become insecure. Then, of course, there is this thing, when you sit in front of a guru, then nothing like that. I'm asking you, wherever you have studied, you don't have to name me, anything. But ask yourself this, when you sat inside a classroom, did it really make a big difference? How many teachers made a difference to you? As an undergraduate, I went to one of the best institutions in India. And some 10 odd people taught me for my degree over my time there. And 7 of them, if they hadn't taught me, and this is no disrespect to them, it's just that if they hadn't taught me, I would have been a better mathematician. This face-to-face, it's just baloney. We're just fooling ourselves. Yes, a few of them make a difference. And technology, aren't you and I sitting face-to-face? Am I not getting through to you? Where is this business of face-to-face all the time? My question is, yes, a teacher must transform himself or herself into a mentor. We are forever sitting on top of the heads of our students, forever forcing them to learn through burdening them with things which we believe is knowledge, but is not. We force them to memorize, we force them to sit for stupid, meaningless tests. This is what needs to go away. Not that I'm teaching you online or I'm teaching you in a classroom. That's what will make a difference. Give them a chance to learn to become thinkers and learners for life. No matter how much you teach, it's never going to be enough. ये तो सिलसिला खत्म नहीं होता. तुलसीदास ने कहा, हरि अनंत, हरि कथा अनंता. This is all God's doing. And God's doing is infinite. How much will you imbibe? Ghalib said the same thing. Jana ki kuch na jana. जाना कि कुछ न जाना, वह भी एक उम्र में. So I have learned that I have learned nothing, and it took me a lifetime to learn that. So where is this thing about, I have to go face to face and acquire this and acquire that? No. Learn to be curious about things. Learn to do things with your hands. Learn about the world. Face the real challenges and needs of the world with the sword of knowledge. It's a two-way process. The needs and challenges of the world stimulate the minds of the young, and when the minds are stimulated, they acquire that knowledge which they feel is necessary to apply to solve that problem, and in the process, they begin to get educated. That's what institutions and individuals should look out for, should worry about. That's not happening enough. It's nothing to do with technology or face-to-face learning.
That's very interesting actually, because you mentioned something about tests, and my next question was precisely about the same thing. If I talk about India, in India, probably one of the most dreaded terms for students is exams. And Indian education system is heavily reliant on exams. I mean, we have entrance exams for getting into the colleges, and we have when we are graduating out of the college, then we once again have exams. Schooling system is entirely based on exams. But now that everyone is studying from their own homes, and probably examination in its traditional sense is as of now not possible, do you think this has probably happened for the good?
Oh, certainly. And in India, the culture is to use exams as a means of disabling the student. Our entire exam system is meant to figure out what the fellow doesn't know. I have yet to see an exam paper where the question says, write what you like and know about. I give you the freedom, enlighten me. Do they ever say that? No. When it comes to exams, we are a cussed nation. All teachers, all institutions believe in just messing up the student's life by asking strange, silly, meaningless questions that don't enable the child. It's very tragic. And the sooner we get out of this, the better. But my worry is that very soon, if we go into outer space and look at India, it will look like one big examination center. It's a tragedy, and we need to think hard about it. I have conducted so many experiments in testing, and there is so much that our past heritage. Look at how the Upanishads test people. There's so much to learn about testing psychology from there, but we don't seem to care about it. We have taken some half-baked Western idea. The West has evolved, but we have taken some half-baked idea and messed it up and implemented it. And incidentally, just 1 minute about that online thing. There are many experiments I have run, but some 6 months ago, I picked up 2 young kids who were wasting their time on TikTok. And they had never ever handled a laptop. They had no idea what Excel is, nothing. I just mentioned to them some real world problems related to, tossing a coin and gambling and stuff like that. Just exposed them a little bit, gave them laptops, gave them access to the net, exposed them a little bit to Excel, 30 minutes. I told them you'll find all that you need to learn to answer the question I've given you. This question related to gambling, which is actually probability theory in disguise, in a practical way. The answers are there on the web. Look at YouTube. These kids are now able to model coronavirus simulations using Excel by themselves. No one taught them. They learned entirely on the web, totally free, totally empowering. I know a 12-year-old child who has learned on the web totally college calculus by himself. So that's the power of online learning.
That's actually very fantastic, and that's a very great point indeed. Professor Singh, as we are nearing the end of this session, I think I would like to conclude this session by having your closing remarks in terms of what can the students look forward to, and also what can the families of the students look forward to in terms of education. And if you have any advice for them, it will be more than welcome.
As I said at the beginning, this is an opportunity. Every situation provides you also with an opportunity. Use this opportunity. There's so much happening on the web. You have, every time I have sought an answer. Do you know, for the last 20 years, I have never consulted a hard copy of a recent journal. I find everything I want on the web. It's a huge resource. You have to be patient. You have to have a discerning mind. You should have the perception to see this is useful. Look at things patiently. You will find all kinds of answers, all kinds of means by which you can look inside, discover your drumbeat. And honestly, the day is not far off when universities will become certifying bodies and people will really acquire education in this fashion. So use this opportunity and empower yourselves no matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter whether you study or not. This will enable you to be happy and successful in life.
Fantastic thoughts, Dr. Singh. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And Professor Singh, you were listening to Professor Dinesh Singh, and he's been a fantastic guest, and I'm sure he has helped a lot of you with your queries. I personally learned a lot from him today. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and thank you so much once again, Professor Singh. Take care and have a good day. Thank you.